Do you know where it comes from? I was once told by a very wise person. That person said to me as a man, right? He said to me, listen, men are not allowed to have bad days.
Yo, what's happening, guys? Welcome to yet another episode of the TMS podcast, and we're back with yet another fire conversation that we'll be having for the next 30 minutes or so. And the boys are back, and we have a homeboy that's on debut today. For the very first time, you get to see who and what the hype man looks like. Hype, what's happening, brother?
For the first time, like Young Jock. Shout out Bed-Stuy, shout out Brooklyn, Simmons way to executive.
Yeah, and he just had to, he had to wait for the goatee before he comes onto the camera.
Leave me alone.
There's a goatee that was growing.
The combos are not communicating.
Are you saying it's not connected? So if you are running a beard oil or a beard growing situation, here is your ambassador. He's sitting right here in front of us, but we're about to have ourselves an amazing time for the next 30 minutes or so, and the boys are here, and this week we're discussing a subject that has been on the forefront of conversation lately, as we're just coming on the back of the Olympic Games that were happening about a month ago. We saw Simone Biles, the gymnast from the United States, and she spoke about how she has suffered situations of mental health, right, and that forced her to withdraw from some of the competitions that she was listed for. And we also know Naomi Osaka also said that she doesn't want to speak to any journalists during Wimbledon. And the reason why we're talking about this, and I'm using them as two examples of the topic that we're having, is that they're both female. And this being TMS, we haven't had any athlete come to the front and say that I'm suffering from this. And I feel like it's an important discussion that we should be having as Jen, because we're just expected by society to always be fine, always be cool, just pick yourself up and keep it going. So we know that there are athletes, there are footballers that are always being trolled on social media, but no one ever thinks about the person that's on the receiving end 100%. Of the trolling on social media and the effects of mental health.
Imagine if you at work, one person has one boss and your boss tells you you did a shit job, how you feel after one person. Now imagine 90,000 in a packed stadium telling you doing a shit job. Then Instagram telling you doing a shit job, which is multiplied because it's worldwide.
Millions,
Facebook,
millions.
Twitter, and your mom's there stroking your head as well, but she's also
You're a big guy, my friend.
Yo, Timo.
yeah,
I'm not going to mention anyone's name, but this is a very serious subject, right? It's a serious topic, and I feel that as men, we need to start being brave around vulnerability, because we are expected to never be vulnerable, and we're not blaming anyone for this. You know what I mean? It's just the world that we grew up in, and no one ever expects us to say that we're weak, to say that we're struggling, to say that we're not coping with the pandemic that we're facing right now. So I'd like to open the floor up. Don't forget, go out there, like, dislike, subscribe onto the channel TMS Podcast on social media, and you can also comment and add your 2 cents to what we're talking about. So let me just open it up.
I think, look, you've touched on something that's very important, and I think especially with the lockdown situation, I think when you look at how we've actually been operating, it has changed society in its entirety. So the same behaviors that we used to do when we're out, that we could actually go out and have a drink with our friends, we no longer have that. And when you talk about mental health, I mean, I'll just dabble a little bit on my side, because we can be vulnerable, right, on this show. So
Well, you gotta be tough.
tough guy disappeared.
So I think on my side, right, I've battled with mental health as a child, right, growing up. So I was one of those kids like the Olympics lady that Biles, right?
Olympic athlete.
Yeah, the Olympic athlete. She was on Ritalin, right, and I have ADD, and I've suffered with ADD for a long time. So the way that I interact with society, I really cannot focus for a very long period of time. So it has had a huge impact in how I learn, how I interact with people, and it actually plays a big role in some of my mood swings. So I do have big dips, and I have to have other mechanisms in place to actually deal with those dips, right? So I have my friends, but it's also hard because you can't really see your friends anymore. So now this lockdown situation kind of puts you in a deeper hole because you don't have that outlet that you had before, those mechanisms to deal with the sadness or the highs and lows from an emotional perspective. So yeah, man, I think for me it's been a very tough time the last 2 years. It hasn't been something that has been easy, but look, we try every day. We try and build and try and have a lot of structures. So on my end, I've been trying to build a lot of structures in place, but it hasn't been easy, you know.
Yeah, surely. Do you think that we create spaces in relationships that we have as men to be vulnerable?
Asking me very tough questions.
As boys, you know what I mean?
As boys, yes.
Yeah, we have those moments. We have those moments where I can, let's say, I'm dealing with something, right, and I want to speak to the gents. The first thing that I think of is, are the gents gonna handle this in a way and in the seriousness that it is, or it will just spiral down to being a chuckle, and we'll just laugh it off and then keep it
also
moving
know your audience to a certain extent, though.
Yeah.
I was about to say, have you noticed that we pick our people in the group? I'm going to chat to this guy about this specific thing. And you choose who you ventilate.
Why
is that the case?
On your side, from your perspective?
So personally, for me, I would say that as dudes, it's really hard to ventilate and to share your thoughts all the time. We have a very joking kind of relationship. We're always having fun and that sort of thing. And when you come with serious things, it sometimes feels like you are, in a way...
What a tired though.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We're trying to have fun and you're coming up with this, all this stuff.
No, but guys, wait. I think things have changed, dog. Also, because know your audience, I'm not discounting what Hype is saying.
Yeah.
But if you know your audience, let's say, take Men Love Men group on WhatsApp, right? You don't enter there with...
You need to qualify.
You need to build... You need to have...
situation though first.
After. You almost need to come through the structured comprehension.
Yeah.
To say intro, body, closing.
100%.
Yeah.
Thoughts. You don't just come in and say, this is what's happening. Guys are going to die, you're going to chuckle.
Yeah.
Because you haven't given people full context.
Context of what's happening.
You know what I'm saying? So if you come in and the intros, guys, serious thing, and then build your case and then close your thing, literally what we learned in grade 3, grade 4, whatever English, and then ask for thoughts. I don't think dudes are just gonna die. But generally, guys will die because they don't understand. What they don't understand just goes to jokes.
But do you think that we provide an environment where, as gents, to have a soft landing in terms of those conversations? So for example,
that's maybe how I want to phrase that.
For example, surely you've gone on an entrepreneurial journey, right? And that journey in itself has got its own challenges, right? Do you feel that all the guys that are around you you can engage on them on all aspects, or do you have to position things in a certain way because you know that if I say it like this, it doesn't make me come across as a victor?
You know what it's like? Now, this is probably part of the bad habit that we learned in MLM, but part of life we learn to speak in humor. It's like speaking to a virgin about sex.
Yeah.
You can chuckle if you want.
I didn't know nothing.
But you no, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because
why you look at my face? You forced me to chuckle.
No. Because speaking to like my wife, for example, right, about whatever challenges I have on a daily, you can see that this person does not understand the pressures that are on me as a result of my decision, left my job, focus on business, but it's different. It's a completely different ballgame. And they do say entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, right? But speaking to her, I'm speaking to a wall. And that's the same as speaking to any of the boys who don't have any sort of experience in having tried something or sold a t-shirt or whatever. Even, I'm not talking about full-time, just having tried something. It's different. So hence I would gravitate towards, let's say, a conversation I'd have with you, but even more so, let's say Mac, who is full-time, and other boys who have been doing their thing for longer.
You can engage about things to people that are specific.
Because they understand what you're going through. So when you're talking about it, like, dog, my anxiety is peaking. It's easier to talk about anxiety and how people feel because everybody just knows that everybody has felt it. Versus someone who can't empathize with what you're going through, salary at the end of the month. Like this month, for example, is the first month in 12 years where I'm not getting salary. Right? Anxiety is on 1 million because Discovery still wants its medical aid stuff because I'm not trying to go to Bara. Don't die, you see. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's difficult, dog, and it's, trust me, when you think you have pressure at work, try having the pressure of knowing that you're not guaranteed anything.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So I'll only go to boys who I feel like can give me a chat that's gonna not make me feel better, but just speaking to like minds is something that helps.
So my question is, how did you get to that initial stage to say like, okay, cool. For example, you spoke about Mac, right? So how did you get to the point where Mac was vulnerable to you as a person that was in the corporate environment? So he didn't necessarily have to open up to you at that particular point in time, but he shared stuff with you that gave you a reference point. So what I'm saying is that a lot of the times we as boys, we go through our journeys, but we are so in isolation of each other that there is no awareness to the fact that his journey is unique, right? And therefore, I must empathize with whatever he's going through, right?
Yeah.
And then whenever it's my turn, or whenever I'm going through stuff and I'm sharing, there should be a lot more empathy as well, in the same amount of empathy, irrespective of the journey. Because as much as you say you found commonality, I'm more interested as to how did he show his vulnerability to you first?
Yeah, but I guess one of my only answers is I don't know, because I can't go back now to see who came up the convo first.
Yeah.
Like, me being me, I probably said some shit to him that made him say, oh fuck, it's actually cool to let's speak about
To
it.
engage.
Just like dog, post something on Instagram now and just post it as an IG story and say, I'm feeling very anxious today and I want to be alone. Watch how many people come out the woodwork. You're like, oh, me too. Oh, I suffer from anxiety. Oh, me too, me too.
So you actually have to put yourself
out
there.
put yourself out there to then
you can receive it.
Where does that thing come from? Where we feel like we can't do it until we see someone else.
Because it comes from an expectation. It comes from one of the most popular topics and discussions of recent time, patriarchy. That you are expected to know and figure out everything about your world as a man. You know what I mean? So you cannot have you cannot go to Shorty, to Tato and tell Tato that I'm actually seeing flames in this life thing. You're just expected to keep it moving, take every jab that life throws at you and keep it moving, keep your head up. Because that's what it is. Like every single time most of the time when you speak to people that this is what I went through, the first thing that comes from the person that you are discussing that with, they just tell you to keep your head up. So what happens, is that now you haven't dealt with what brought you so much anxiety.
The actual issue.
So now you are repressing all those feelings. Everything is being stored down.
Do you know where it comes from, Nam? I was once told by a very wise person. That person said to me as a man, right? He said to me, listen, men are not allowed to have bad days. That is left for women and children. That's what he said.
That's heavy. I don't know.
That is very heavy.
That's what he said to me.
I won't lie, I have a bad day for free.
But what he was trying to say is, he was trying to give me light in terms of, you know that ornament of a man with the world and the globe on his shoulders? That's exactly what he was saying.
Can I ask you a question just on that topic, right? Have you ever shed a tear?
100%.
Where do you shed your tears?
Bedroom, maybe boys to men. Playing in the background.
By yourself, right?
One man all the time.
Do you guys shed tears?
Yep.
Yeah, I've shed many tears.
I shed tears in the car, dog. I think that's the safest place.
Yeah, no,
good.
When you get to destinations,
Because
you wipe your eyes.
Even that type of breakdown, right? And we're not taking a stance of being victims here. We're just trying to address and trying to communicate where we find ourselves as men. And at some point we explode because we don't have any safe places.
There's no outlets.
Break down to be on some. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. Everyone just expects that you need to already have a plan for life. Yeah. You are 32 years old. You need to figure it out. You need to buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What's the the fucking cause of everything? I think it's pocket pressure.
Yeah.
And I heard someone say the term, but we all know what it means. So, for example, when we were in varsity, to get a girl, we needed jokes and personality. And maybe a smell of storm. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what you can afford.
Maybe a six-pack will do.
A six-pack.
Very strong, very potent.
right?
Yeah.
And then you guys have fun. You buy yourself courts, you chill, you have fun. Now, the same an 18-year-old now going into first year is not expecting a six-pack and jokes from a guy at the yard. He needs to pop out shampoo. A kid, dog. And imagine what that kid's gonna go through trying to chase girls. Because at the end of the day, he's attracted to a girl X. You know, he's gonna keep chasing girl X. But then I'm not blaming women, mind you, because I think men put the value on the money as a result of.
I think
guys do it to
we're
themselves.
complicit.
No, 100% complicit.
But we do it to
100%
ourselves. That's the thing. We create that market.
But look, that's where it starts, right?
now
You may
the-
say that, that's the pocket
My
pressure.
my point is the money is a matter of what it represents is essentially that's what we need to achieve, all of us in life. To
That's
be
what I
able
mean.
to do the things
And
that
it
we
starts
do.
there, so I'm just adding to what you're saying. So it will start there, and then that kid will eventually graduate and find themselves in a place of employment that pays them the money, but their mental health is being compromised in the process. But because you already have that as the most important thing, the most fundamental thing that you need as a man for you to be able to survive in the world, you will stay in that space that is bad for you mentally, that with a manager that's always coming to bash you, a manager that's always killing your self-esteem, but because you think that the money is the be-all and end-all of things, you will stay there, and not realizing that that's what compromises you. You know what I mean?
I remember, sorry, just before, I remember when I was working for one of those audit firms, right? I won't mention the names, but I remember when the paycheck came in, I was like one of the most saddest guys ever because the bones didn't align to what the dream was. The dream was you're going to work for this company, you're going to flourish, you're going to grow, you're going to reach these new highs. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, dog, you're eating a tuna and an avon just for supper, and it's tough, dog.
Eating the tuna out of the can.
You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that it doesn't align, and that creates those pressures. So now the pressure is you were told this is what a guy should do, this is where a guy should work, this is what the viewpoint should look like. But in actual fact, you're seeing flames deep down, and there's a misalignment between those two things.
But hey, I'll tell you something, probably be the last thing I say. So the problem in life, I think we put a lot of pressure on, kids, and as we were kids in the past, a lot of pressure is put on us, right? To achieve things that are going to get us to a point where we have things that represent
100%.
success.
Yeah.
I.e. get that house, do this, do that. And sitting now, for example, I had an epiphany probably a month before I resigned, where I devalued money, like legit. I don't value money. I like the things I can do, but I don't value money. So like now, if I'm chilling at the workshop and we're grinding all night, I'm not chasing money. I'm just chasing the fact that I love doing what I'm doing.
You realize
I'm going to the fucking coffee table, gonna put it in someone's house. When I get back home, I'm like, holy shit, we used to talk about labnas and okay furniture as
But I
children.
just did that.
And put shit in people's houses. I'm like, damn, that's dope. That's where I get the satisfaction. Yes, FNB sends me an SMS to be like, deep, deep, balance has been paid. But it's not about that. But now the problem is, you're dealing with the house, you have a wife, you have a kid on the way, and they unfortunately aren't on the same wavelength via, I don't value money. Because why? Kids need to go buy toys when they go to a kid's birthday. A wife wants Fruit Loops.
That's
A wife wants XYZ. And she's not going to be on some flipping Zen shit with me, right? About like, no, dog, money, guys, relax. But we need to change that though, about like chase happiness. Because everybody just needs to chase what makes them happy.
Yeah.
How many people do you guys know who are in jobs? I know a few who are in jobs, and I know a few as a result of me having posted that I'm done with my job. But I love my job, fortunately. But people who are in jobs that they don't like and they'd rather be doing some shit that doesn't pay them well enough to maintain the Joburg life.
And it's not even just payments though, like, cause I'm in the broadcasting space, right? So what you do is heard and can be responded to by everybody that was listening to you on that day. So there's a constant pressure for you to perform at your best every single day. So entertainers, TV presenters, radio DJs, every single day, regardless of whether you feel that you want to do what you are expected to do on that day, you are just supposed to throw whatever feelings that you have. You must just throw it away and keep focused, because that's the job.
Leave your feelings at the door.
Yeah, leave your feelings at the door. So you just need to perform at the highest. And there's something that Kanye West said, that no one ever expects us to be treated like athletes, right? When he was speaking of Big Boy, he says that I function on the highest level of mental sports. So being a creative, someone who has to constantly come up with hits, someone who has to constantly come out with a nice looking sneaker, right? But when he comes out and says that I'm battling with mental health, people just love it. With the Kanye, what are you saying? Why?
You got too much money to have mental health issues.
And that's the thing.
You don't realize that you are performing at the highest level, right?
So
you may be a CEO, you may be working for a big corporate. Every single day you are handling big amounts of money, and you are expected to never make a mistake, and there's a constant pressure. And eventually, you have to make
that can
a decision.
impact households.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of households.
So you have to constantly perform. That's why there were always those moments. I'm sure everybody who grew up or who knew his dad will remember this moment where your father comes in and the food is cold in the microwave and it just flips up.
Yeah, he flips
I
up.
do my best for this family. That's a breakdown from a man, but we never really understood that. You were like,
I'm bugging out.
That's like LeBron, dog. LeBron and what's that dude's name? Smith. J.R. Smith when J.R. ran the opposite direction. That's essentially what it is, dog. I worked so hard for this team, but do I know you want to just go that way? No, dog. Everybody must pull their weight. But that's
a breakdown from a father. You know what I mean? Because no one ever understands. No one ever stops and says, let's actually ask this guy how he's doing.
Yes.
You know? And not just trying to be decent and civil. Just find out and dig deep.
Most guys feel like they always have an expectation to do something. It feels like when you're a man, like you just constantly have to supply something.
Cause the gram says broke niggas don't deserve no pussy.
Fact.
That's
No, but that's what it is.
We have a question.
Okay, gents, I hear everything that you guys are saying, and so far I'm not gonna say it was complaints, but it was just stating facts of this is the
Complaints
shit,
commission.
the shit that we go through. So with that being said, what avenues do you suggest, or what avenues are available? Because I personally know there's not that many. So what do you suggest, and what is available to put us in a better position as men to start dealing with our mental issues and helping other men deal with their mental issues?
Yo, this is a tough one.
It's a very tough question.
I'll take a stab at it whilst these guys are thinking about an answer. But on my end, I think the first thing is to have dialogue, right? So I think we need to start having a lot more open conversation around things that are happening in our lives. So, Gabelo, you're doing.
But Tato, just sorry, but I think those conversations need to be positive and negative. We have a sense of like reporting on very positive things.
Yes, and this is exactly what I'm saying. What I wanted to get to is that we need to be a lot more authentic in terms of our life stories, right? I think the reason why us four here are sitting here having these conversations is that I think we're more comfortable to be a lot more vulnerable with each other, right? And I think we also have the onus and as well as the responsibility to start creating other pockets where people can be vulnerable and they can share that type of stuff. So you do have younger brothers, you do have younger cousins that are guys. You can have these type of conversations and just show them that even though you are successful, tell them the negative side. It's like your conversation about the gram. The gram always shows a beautiful story of how the person, they'll show you an M4, but do you know how much tires are for an M4? It's almost 15 down for those things. And they won't tell you those types of things, but you'd rather have a conversation with someone and say, yo, you know what, I went here, I used to drive a taxi, this is what I did, this is what I did, I started here, God
lost my house 3 times.
Lost my house 3 times. As much as you see me as a successful story, I want to show you guys that here's the negative and you guys can come out of it better.
But you see,
it's like, for example, sorry, just before you enter, even when I was at varsity, I got kicked out, right? You know that. Do you know that?
You didn't get kicked out.
First 7.
First 7.
Yeah. I think you were cited. You were not kicked out.
Well, I got the letter that said, hey, my man.
I got that letter myself.
But the thing was, at that point in time, I could not tell anybody.
Yeah.
I could not tell
No one
anybody. No one knew.
And the jokes were here at that time.
100%, and at their peak, and there was no soft landing for those types of conversation, right? Now, fast forward, I've gone on my whole academic journey and all of that, and I can look back and say, you know what, guys, if you want to do your masters or whatever, it can be done, even though you have failed. You know, even if you are seeing flames in life, it doesn't end here. Don't give up, and that's I think the conversations we need to start having around the table.
Yeah, that's if you're broke, man. If you can't afford therapy. If you can go to therapy, it's cool. But if you're broke, just chat to your homeboys. Anything else? Last bite, gents?
Nah, I'm cool. I think people just need to speak more, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
It's definitely easier said than done. I think he hit the nail on its head there. But we definitely need to ventilate how our lives are going and just by way of information.
Yeah, and no one expects...
Just to alleviate that stress, because it's bad enough, bro.
Another thing that we didn't touch on, no one expects you to have figured life out, right? So you may find yourself watching this and you are 30 years old, you don't know, people are expecting you to have 5-year plans. That's also bringing up so much anxiety because you just don't know what you want to do with your life at this point. And no one expects you, right? It's your journey, it's your race. Speak to people. Come out and say that I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So that's okay. That's fine. I don't understand where I'm going. I don't understand where I'm moving. But you can also contribute to this conversation, a very serious conversation that we're supposed to be having. As gents on the comment section below, you can also go. You will probably find our social media handles at the bottom of your screen and just let us know. Let's just keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode. TMS podcast back with a bang.
Executive
Producer Tim is there in the background.